We have talked a lot about the Ohio Republican primary and the Senate race and the necessity for Republicans to hold on to that seat. It's been a spirited race. We hosted the candidates at a candidate forum at Genoa on October the 26th, and it's a pleasure to have with us one of the candidates who I thought really connected with people that night, and obviously from poll results has connected with people across the state of Ohio. He is Mike Gibbons. He's an investment banker from the Cleveland area. So, Mike, thanks for your time today. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Bruce.
So the latest Fox News poll shows you in front. There was a Trafalgar poll, I think, a week ago that had you in front by more. Josh Mandel second behind you within the poll's margin of error, according to Fox. How do you feel like your message is resonating with Ohio voters at this point in time, and what has allowed you to connect with them so well that you're leading the last two polls I looked at?
Well, I'm a regular guy from Parma, Ohio that it's been pretty blessed. I've built a business. I've lived the American dream, and I tell everybody that the American dream isn't dead because I'm walking, talking proof of that. And I think I relate well to the voters of Ohio. I think the voters of Ohio are also turned off by career politicians and party insiders, and they want somebody that tells the truth and is a real person.
You've run for office before, but you're not a politician. I mean, you've been in private business. I like that about our government. I think we need to get back to that time when we have public servants, the truest form of a public servant. And I think the public servants who have been in the business world and understand how business works make the best candidates. What motivates you, Mike, to take a break from your business? I mean, Senate's a big job. It's a full-time job. You don't need to do this. You could relax, sit on a beach, or do what you enjoy doing with your family or your business. Why take on the headache of running for office?
Well, I probably have told you the story before, but I think what started me off was one of my kids, my second youngest son. I've got 5 children, but he graduated from Georgia Tech with a degree in aerospace engineering and joined the Navy. He's now a Navy pilot. And my family is, I'm sure I've also told you, is about sports. My dad was a high school teacher and a wrestling coach, and we didn't have military in the family culture. And when my son did that, it really had a lot of impact on me. I was very proud of him. I'm incredibly proud of him, and I walked out with my wife and I went down to Pensacola and visited him, and I walked out of there and I said, I don't like the way the country's going. I don't like the people we're running for office, and I'm tired of throwing stuff at my television set, and maybe I ought to do this. And a lot of people told me I was crazy, and then when they knew I was serious about it, they said, they thought that I could do a pretty good job. So, I think I'm alarmed by the way our country's going. I believe firmly in American values and principles. I think we have a left that's rejecting them, wants to radically transform the country, and I'm not going to let them. And this is the greatest country in the history of the world, and I'm not afraid to say that.
Mike Gibbons is our guest. He is running for Senate, state of Ohio, trying to succeed Rob Portman. The primary is coming up in May, and the latest polls have Mike in front, Josh Mandel second. Other candidates in the field include Jane Timken and J.D. Vance and Matt Dolan. You can find out more about Mike and the issues that he is prioritizing in his campaign on his campaign website, gibbons4ohio.com, Gibbons, gibbons4ohio.com. His Twitter is Mike Gibbons OH. So, Mike, I'm baffled when I hear people who have benefited from America's systems and from the way that we do things here in the country, demonize the country, and our foundations are evil and horrible and all this kind of stuff. And I'm always wondering, do they really believe that, or is there an end game out there? Have you reconciled that in your own mind? And as you interact, you're in the Cleveland area. You can't swing a dead cat up there without hitting a leftist. What do you make of this demonization of a country that's allowed you and me and untold numbers of others to succeed in ways that could never happen in a lot of other countries, and I would say in all other countries?
Bruce, the people that are demonizing it, the people that are claiming that America's, basically evil country formed on evil principles are the ones that have screwed it up the most. The Democrats have wrecked a large part of our society, particularly the inner cities all around our country. You can see their handiwork in the crime results, or the crime that's been increasing, the terrible school systems, and they're the ones whining the most. They've created a whole culture of victimhood, and part of that, when you're a victim now, is you become an activist, and vast swaths of our college graduates are now majoring in activism and victimology, and this is a sickness, and we've got to turn it around. Anybody that thinks this country isn't the greatest country in the history of the world has never taken really a careful look at history. And this is the greatest country.
I agree with you totally. Mike Gibbons is our guest, running for Senate, state of Ohio. And, you had the Senate forum at Genoa. You've been around the state. You have a bus that's traveling. You're meeting Ohioans. What kind of vibe do you get back from people? I mean, you and I are like-minded on this view of the ideals of America. I don't think we've always lived up to them perfectly, but that's the difference between us and other countries, is we strive to. We hold ourselves accountable on that. What do you hear from real Ohioans when they interact with you?
It's very gratifying. I've worked hard. I've tried to, I've pretty much been on the road for a year, talking to people all over the state. And you're right. I'm in Cuyahoga County. You said it a different way. I may do it the same. Use that line, Bruce. But I always say if I open my window and throw a rock out, chance I'm gonna hit a Democrat. I was in Scioto County last night. Incredible. In actually in New Boston, but we toured Portsmouth. Terrific people, incredible people, and they're all over the state. And I can tell you through our efforts, people are paying attention. I think we're going to see a lot of very active Republicans in this upcoming election. I think we're going to see people going to the polls that haven't gone there before. And I'm seeing them in McDonald's when we stop for a Big Mac or whatever, or I see them in the gas station, and they're coming up and they're taking signs. It's really an outpouring of support. And frankly, you saw the Fox poll. We believe that we're substantially further ahead than that Fox poll says. Yeah,
you are up in that poll 2 points. There's been other polls that I've seen that had you up more. To whatever extent you're comfortable, tell us about how you feel the race is shaping up right now. I know you're not going to relax because you've got some time yet before May, but it strikes me you've made quite a connection with people because you didn't have the same name recognition as a Josh Mandel. I'd even argue the same recognition as a J.D. Vance, who I see on Tucker all the time, which is a good platform for him. But yet you have the poll lead according to everybody. What are you feeling about where you sit positioned right now?
Well, a lot of people have gotten endorsements from insiders. I think Jane Timken has broken the record on endorsements, but as you can see from the poll, she's not connecting with the people and the voters. And Josh has been around for a long time. He's never served a day in the private sector. And, I think J.D. Vance is a newcomer. He, moved in from San Francisco and handpicked by Mitch McConnell. And I think that I'm different. I've lived here my whole life. I worked here. I, came from a lower middle class family, and I love this state. And I think people realize I'm not trying to become a career politician. I'm going to Washington to hold off the left. And I think people buy that argument because it's the truth, and I've been able to relate that to them, and we've gotten really an outpouring of support.
Mike Gibbons is our guest. Find out more about his campaign for senator from the state of Ohio on the Republican side of the aisle at gibbons4ohio.com. His Twitter site is Mike Gibbons OH. Mike, I'm the father of 3 daughters. They're all in school. Homeschooled and private school. I'd never trust them to the public school. I understand that not everyone can do that, and if you are two working parents, a lot of times, you have to have your kids in public school. I think we saw in Virginia the way that Republicans have a path to resonating with voters via what Glenn Youngkin did. And there are a lot of things going on in our public schools that I find to be not only deplorable but nefarious. Matt Dolan, one of the candidates in your race, is not only a supporter of but a co-sponsor of the Equality Act in the state of Ohio, which would install LGBTQ as a protected class, as is sex, as is ethnicity. I don't find that to be a conservative position at all. I don't find that to be a position that resonates with the state voters in the state of Ohio. You've not spoken to school issues with me here. I wanted to give you a chance to speak to school issues here and whether or not you have a view of one of the candidates in this race painting himself as a true conservative having that position.
Matt's the most recent candidate in this race, and Matt started out as a Democrat. We talk a lot about wokeism, and wokeism is really at the root. I don't want to get caught in the weeds here because I studied political philosophy, but wokeism is at the root of what we call CRT. Mm-hmm. And here you have a guy that owns, his family owns the Cleveland Indians. Matt owns part of the Cleveland Indians, and he was responsible for changing the name from Indians to Guardians. These are the kinds of things where we're just kind of bowing to the whims of a leftist group that wants to erase our history, erase our tradition, erase the things that are important to us. Names and history of an organization matter, and the left doesn't think that. They want to freshen up everything to whatever the cultural dictate is at the time. And Matt's obviously on board with that. And, before he got in this race, I had spoken to him, what are you doing? Why, even the Indians, I don't know if you know the history of the name Indians, but there was a very great Indian player that was part of the Indians back in the teens and 20s, 19 teens and 20s. And his tribe actually voted to keep the name Indians. I mean, it was an honor. It wasn't some kind of a slight. Frankly, if I was an American Indian, I'd be upset that we're trying to erase them.
Yeah.
And they're an important part. There was a nobility to using the name Indians and honoring them, and the left doesn't seem to say that. The left doesn't seem to believe that. And frankly, of the candidates running for this office, Matt Dolan is far more of a Democrat than a Republican. I think he's made the case he's a fiscal conservative, but that's where it ends. And I don't think he's catching on. I don't think that the red wave we're going to see is going to carry a lot of people that are lefties in the Republican Party.
I'm with you on that 100%. I hope the next time you're through Columbus, Mike, you'll accept the invitation to stop by our studio anytime. I appreciate what you're doing, stepping away from a peaceful, normal life and taking on the craziness of politics for the good of the country. I applaud that. I appreciate your time today. Thanks for joining us.